All right, let's get right into it. You know, every so often, a book just comes out of nowhere. It doesn't get that big celebrity stamp of approval, you don't see it on all those must-read lists, and somehow it just becomes this huge thing, a total phenomenon. Well, today, that's exactly what we're breaking down. We're talking about a super rare unicorn of a book, a debut novel called The Correspondent.
So here's the big question, right? How does this quiet, really thoughtful novel about a woman in her 70s writing letters of all things, with basically zero industry buzz, how does it just explode onto the scene and hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list? I mean, really, how does that happen? That's the mystery we're going to try to solve today.
And this chart, it just lays out the whole puzzle perfectly. Look at this. On one side, you've got 0 major book club picks when it launched. And let me tell you, in today's market, that can be a killer for a new book. But then you look at the other side, over 250,000 hardcover copies already out there, in print. So the question just gets bigger. How on earth did this happen?
To figure this all out, here's our game plan. First, we'll talk about its breakout status. Then, we'll dive into the unique way the story's told. We'll meet the main character, unpack the big themes, get into the author's own incredible journey, and finally, we'll tie it all together.
Okay, let's jump into our first section, this year's breakout novel. And look, the publishing industry itself was completely caught off guard by this one. Seriously, people on the inside are calling it a total unicorn. You know, something so rare you're not even sure it's real.
The amazing author, Ann Patchett, was one of the book's earliest fans, and she absolutely nailed why it worked with this quote. It's exactly what she says. This wasn't some huge, expensive marketing campaign. Nope. This was pure, old-fashioned, grassroots word of mouth. Like a wildfire, really. Just one person reading it, loving it, and then telling 2 friends, you have to read this book. And here's the proof. The book is already in its 14th printing. Wow. That kind of number doesn't happen because of a big splashy launch. That happens because of real, sustained demand from readers. People who just keep discovering it and passing it on. It's a quiet book that's making some serious noise. So all that word of mouth power really comes from the story itself, which brings us to section 2, where we look at how it's told. Because it's a story told in letters, and that's not your typical narrative, it's a huge part of the magic. The book is what you call an epistolary novel. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, it's pretty simple. It just means the story unfolds through documents, and in this case, it's almost all through letters. You know, this format can be seen as kind of risky these days, but for The Correspondent, it ended up being its biggest asset. And this line from the main character, Sybil Van Antwerp, tells you everything you need to know about why. For her, writing letters isn't just something she does. It's who she is. So when you're reading them, it doesn't feel like you're just following a plot. It feels like you're being invited into the most private corners of her mind and heart.
Which is the perfect lead into our third section. Who is Sybil Van Antwerp? Because, you know, you can have a clever structure, but if you don't have a character that people fall in love with, it's just not going to work. And Sybil, well, she is absolutely unforgettable.
I love this list. It's pulled right from reviews, and it shows you she's just a walking, talking contradiction. She's peevish but good-natured, stubborn but eloquent. She is not some simple, sweet old lady. She's complicated, she's got flaws, she can be a little difficult, and that's exactly why readers feel like she's so real.
Think of her life like an iceberg. What you see on the surface seems pretty calm, right? A quiet life in Maryland, gardening, friends, writing letters. But her letters, they take you underneath the surface into the depths. And down there, you find this immense grief, a really tough relationship with her daughter, and this terrifying reality of her eyesight failing. It's that huge contrast that gives the book its incredible emotional weight.
So it's through this amazing, complex character that the book tackles some really big, powerful ideas. And that brings us to section 4. The miraculous and mundane themes that are woven all through her story.
Sybil says it perfectly herself right here. Her life is this strange mix of the everyday and the amazing, the mundane and the miraculous. And honestly, isn't that what life is for all of us? The book just taps into that fundamental truth in such a beautiful way.
You can really see her emotional journey in these 3 steps. First, she's finally confronting this deep, deep grief over losing her child that shaped her whole life. Second, she's trying to find forgiveness, not just from other people, but, and this is the hard part, for herself. And third, she's dealing with what it means to get older, with all the physical and emotional challenges that come with it. Grief, forgiveness, aging. I mean, these are things that hit home for pretty much everybody. Okay, but there's one more piece to this puzzle, and it's not actually in the pages of the book. It's the story behind the story. Let's talk about the author, Virginia Evans, and her 20-year journey to get here.
Just look at this timeline. It's all about pure persistence. This was her 9th novel. She started writing at 19, got rejected over and over, even had an agent drop her. She goes and gets a prestigious master's degree, only to come back feeling like she'd hit rock bottom. But she just kept writing.
And this detail, this is just amazing. She wrote this entire smash hit in a closet every morning from 4:30 to 7:30, and she wasn't writing it to become famous. She said it was just an exercise for herself, to work through her own feelings. She never even thought anyone else would read it. That level of authenticity, that's something readers can really feel, and they've connected with it in a huge way.
Okay, so let's put it all together. Section 6, the never-ending circuit. Let's answer that big question from the beginning. Why did this quiet little book become such a massive sensation? Well, it's kind of like the perfect recipe for a sleeper hit, right? You've got the intimate format of letters that makes you feel so connected. You have a messy, complicated, totally human main character. You've got these huge universal themes that everyone can relate to. Then you layer on this incredible true story about the author's own perseverance. And the final ingredient? The most powerful marketing in the world. Just one reader genuinely telling another, you have to read this.
This last quote, which is Sybil's advice on how to write a good letter, is actually the perfect metaphor for the book's success. The novel answers our questions about life while also asking new ones, and in doing so, it creates this never-ending circuit of curiosity that gets passed from reader to reader to reader. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. In our world of texts and DMs and emails that just disappear, this book is a powerful reminder of what it means to slow down and really truly connect with someone. So the question I'll leave you with is a simple one. Who in your life deserves a letter?